One Question is designed to give subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown, and welcome to One Question, where we highlight executive leaders in college athletics. I'm at the 2018 Women Leaders in College Sports National Convention, and I'm joined by Natalie Winkelfoos. Natalie's the Associate Vice President for Athletic Advancement and Director of Athletics and Physical Education at Oberlin College. Greetings, Natalie. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting. This has been a great convention. It's very powerful, is our theme, right? But this is great to be able to sit down and share a conversation.
It is. Well, I appreciate you joining. So now, Oberlin College, you've been in athletics for roughly 12 years, in college athletics as a whole, 6 years as the athletics director there at Oberlin College. Of course, recently you become the Associate Vice President for Athletic Advancement. What I know about you is that you lead from a position of care. Caring is important, whether it be caring for those who you work for, who you work with, who you are actually working for in terms of student athletes or people in the organization, or caring for the job that you were hired to do. Can you give us some insight on that philosophy of caring?
Yeah, I think it's something that I've really focused in on in the last probably 2 years. Maybe it's maturity and growth of me, I don't know, but I think it's also the rising concern of just the health and wellness of the people that we work with. So being able to take great care and show people that you value what they bring into a room, into a space, into a team, wherever they are, they need to know that you care about them. You take it like a little kid, right? Like, they want to know that they're loved, right? And that doesn't change as you get older. Love makes the world go round, right? And love will always win. So, I think about what really is our ultimate competitive advantage. You can have the nicest facilities, you can have the flashiest of uniforms, but if you don't care about the work you do, if you don't care about how you do the work, why you do it, who you do it with, who you do it for, then you have nothing, right? So that's when I say that caring is our ultimate competitive advantage. And if we can match, I tell our staff, we don't want anybody to be able to match our care, right? If we can show up every day with enthusiasm and excitement and let people know we care, they'll run through a brick wall for you.
Now, you mentioned that you really started to focus on this a couple years ago, but I'd imagine this has been something that has been in your mind developing as a philosophy for years now. So when you took over as athletic director, you implement your leadership philosophy, you develop the culture based on whatever your core values are and how you want to lead. And then a couple of years ago, this focus comes to caring, right? And you actually probably found the language to communicate it. Tell me how things changed between when you were probably living it to the point where now you communicated it, and this is what we're going to do here as a department.
I think, quite frankly, I've had some experiences where I wasn't sure that I was cared about by my boss or whoever, right? You learn so much about what to do by witnessing what you shouldn't do. And so I think it has taken me a little bit just to kind of nail it down to caring is our competitive advantage. State it briefly and state it brilliantly and state it with passion, and people get that. If you talk and talk and talk, you're dancing all around. Be brief and brilliant. And that's where it kind of came from.
Right. When you came to the brief and brilliance of caring is our competitive advantage, the next day when you got up and went to work, tell me how you started the implementation process of making sure everybody understood what that meant with intent.
I think intent is a really good word to use there. Being really intentional with your interactions. And when you're asking somebody how they're doing, really listening. And taking note of physically, do they look like they're okay if they respond to you? So that asking people how they're doing and listening, making sure that you're having multiple checkpoints with people. So, I don't just have these formal meetings of check-ins, right? But I want to pop into people's spaces and meet them where they are and see how things are going. And then also what does our space, what do our facilities saying to you? Like, do they say that they care about you? And we had to, quite frankly, like, we had to work to raise some money to change our facilities. You know, last weekend we just cut the ribbon on our new health and wellness center, and prior to that we were living in a space that was pre-Title IX and was a space built for men only, right? So I mean, it was old. We did our best to keep up with it. It wasn't like terrible, but still it wasn't saying to our students and to our staff that self-care matters. So now it's brilliant and it's beautiful, right? But then also, like, what is the programming inside that space saying? You know, when we ask, like, we were talking about yoga a little bit before we were doing this, but you think about like an athlete and you grind and you're building muscles, but I think it's also important to slow down and be still and like quiet your mind. And so, you know, we're taking yoga to our student athletes, we're bringing more of it to campus, and, you know, just educating people really what it looks like to take care of yourself and talking about it, you know, and saying like mental health matters.
Were there questions, your staff? I'd imagine they've seen you live this before you actually brought it to communicate it in the way you do now. But did they have questions? How do we do this? Like, how were you evaluated for doing it well in terms of a department, people on your staff? Tell me about that part of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you do it well, the experience and the feedback that we get is going to be great. But I think I had the advantage before I became the athletics director at Oberlin that I started out as an assistant basketball coach there. So I had built relationships with these people. But it's also why I chose to stay there, because I've built these relationships with some really wonderful, smart people on a campus that really believes in diversity, inclusion, you know, social justice. And so it matches my values as a human. And all of us who are at Oberlin, like, we choose to be there because of the institution. So it's time, we have to walk the walk, talk the talk. And when we say we care about those things, show up with energy. And I think that's what people expect from me, is they're going to get some energy, and I expect that I'm going to get that back from my staff as well.
You mentioned a new facility you guys just broke ground on, and you've actually been very successful in fundraising there at Oberlin. You've had a hand in bringing in over $30 million to the athletics department there. How have you meshed the caring philosophy with that development philosophy and fundraising philosophy during your tenure as the athletics director?
I would say that we also brought $30 million to the athletics department, but I think we also brought $30 million to the institution. All of our spaces, so that the stadium that we built, this health and wellness center and pool renovation, this really was built in mind for everyone. So taking in the experience of a fan, a parent visiting campus, faculty, staff who can use our spaces. But all of that is coming from a place of care and thought and being really intentional again, you know, and thinking about everybody who's going to come into that space. How's it going to feel for the custodian who has to clean it? But then with the fundraising, successful fundraisers build solid relationships. You know, like I always say, like, people give money to people. And so again, it comes back to, you know, like, yes, I will meet with a donor and I have an idea of how much they can give me, right? But I'm not just going to come in hot and say, hey, give me that $5 million, right? No, I'm going to take the time to, like, I know your name, and now I want to know your story, and I want to know what you're passionate about, and I want to match your passion with some of the goals that I have for raising the profile of athletics at Oberlin College. And so it really becomes a conversation, and through that, I'm able to build these wonderful relationships, and I'm just, like, so grateful and privileged to be connected with this place that has, like, some of the coolest people on the planet, like, wickedly smart, right? And so, you know, I would say, like, Oberlin has been my greatest teacher, and I care about that. So I think I pack that in my suitcase when I'm traveling, you know, like, I got to pack my care, right? It sounds so cheesy, but, like, you lead with love.
Yeah, lead with love. Care is our competitive advantage. You just said you have to pack your care with you wherever you go. Good leaders recognize good leadership. Do people on campus outside of athletics recognize this, recognize what you do? Well, obviously, by the title you have, they recognize it, but do they recognize that there's something here happening in athletics that could be infectious around campus? I mean, have people approached you or anything about that on campus, the people outside of athletics?
Yeah, I think so. I think they know something's going on. It's been brewing for quite a while, and it's just been little changes. I think they see it outside of athletics, they're seeing it in our student athletes because they're walking with a little more confidence and swagger, right? And they're showing up they're wearing their pride, on their shirts and clothes, and so they see that there is some enthusiasm happening down on our corner of the campus. We try to be a partner for everyone. We have the ability, like a library, the museum on campus, the dining hall. Like, there are certain places that are for everyone, and our recreation center is one of those places. So we need to demonstrate that we care about everybody's goals on campus. And with health and wellness, like, we want to have the campus moving.
Well, I think they are, and I think people working for you are lucky. I have a saying that leaders always need to ask themselves, is working for me more than just another paycheck? And what it sounds like is that the culture you've created, the leadership philosophy that you have, the brief but brilliant saying, care is our competitive advantage. You have created that environment where people understand that, I really want to be here working with this person. I really appreciate you joining us here on One Question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
That was Natalie Winkelfoos. She's the Associate Vice President for Athletic Advancement and Director of Athletics and Physical Education at Oberlin College. And of course, this is Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of One Question is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.